Hi my dear friends, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, as you can see, I have this beautiful Christmas inspired wreath because we are nearing a holiday season very soon. So I thought, why not, I would just share a tutorial which would be super easy to paint for all of you beginners out there. And trust me guys, even though it looks like a difficult design, but it's not. It is super easy, and I'm sure you can paint it very effortlessly. Alright, so to start with, first let me show you my supplies. And here I'm using a brand of paper from this brand called Bahong, and it's also 100% cotton. Alright, so to start with, first I have sketched a circle here. You can use anything to sketch this circle out. And then starting with the colors, the first color on my palette here is olive green, and the second one is sap green. The third one is a mixture of quinacridone rose and some orange to make it a little bit more brighter. The fourth one here is greenish yellow, and these are the paints that I'll be using today. And also the brand of paint that I mostly use for my paintings is Mission Magello Gold Colors. And also I'll be using a nice gold metallic shade, and this one is from Artlets by Adi. I can link her Instagram account on the description. You can check that out. And this one is actually a handmade watercolor. The choice of color, guys, is completely up to you. I mean, you can use whatever is that you have at hand, and the paints that I use mostly are professional grade. They're artist grade watercolors, but if you don't have artist grade watercolors, it's absolutely fine. You can also start with student grade ones, and there are some amazing student grade watercolors available. If you want to know more about my colors and my brushes, let me know in the comments, and I can probably make another detailed video on that one as well. Alright, so starting first with some berries here. So notice that I'm leaving a tiny white space, which is going to be my highlight area, and that is a very important step, guys. Don't miss out the white space, because with watercolor you can't really go over the paint again. So imagine it's just it's one time, and you have to get it right. So don't get scared. I don't mean want to scare you guys, but just that you do a little bit of planning and kind of just have it in your mind where exactly you want the light source to hit, so that you know which side of the which side you want the light to be shining, so then you can stay consistent with the highlight area. So that's a very important tip, guys. Also, what I'm doing right here is that I'm changing the value of the color by mixing more water, and sometimes rinsing my brush and just taking more water, and in some places I have taken more paint. So that kind of gives a nice beautiful the blended watercolor effect, which we all love so much, and you can also try and do the same. Also, guys, the brush number that I'm using here is a number 6 round brush from Princeton. If you are comfortable using a smaller brush, you can do so, because I like my number 6 one a lot, so here I'm using the number 6 one. The next step is I have started adding some leaves, and I'm using olive green to do so. And also notice I'm leaving a small little tiny white space in the center of the leaf to again bring out some highlight areas, and keep doing that, keep leaving some white spaces, because it makes your painting look very interesting. Alright, the next thing, guys, what I did is I changed my brush to a smaller one. This one's the number 3 from Princeton. It's the same round brush because now I'm going to start painting a few smaller leaves, so I thought using a smaller one would be better. And here I'm using sap green to paint in a few smaller size leaves. Alright, now it's time to add a different type of leaf. So here I am mixing a tiny bit of blue to my sap green. So I've added cobalt blue to my green to make it a tad bit darker. And now I'm going to paint some pine leaves and kind of connecting that wreath and the white spaces. So the pine leaves also, very very simply, I'm just kind of going there with some straight lines and then kind of just following the circle and joining. Again here, what I did for the last step for the leaves, so what I'm doing is again I'm changing the value of the colors again, even for my pine leaves. So what I did, I'm rinsing my brush and kind of taking a more lighter value of the green, and again going over and painting pine leaves, because this really makes the whole thing look very very interesting. And I highly suggest you do that and try this technique out, guys, so that way your watercolor will never look very flat, and it'll give you a nice blended look. Notice how in some areas the paint looks lighter, and in some areas the paint looks darker. That's because even though I'm using the same shade, but I'm changing the value by rinsing my brush in water. And then again, some places I'm using more darker tone, more saturated paint. So that's a very nice way to paint your watercolors. Alright, next up is I'm using a completely different shade now. So what I did, I've taken a little bit of blue and kind of mixed a very little bit of that previously mixed up green to my blue mixture. And the blue I'm using here is cobalt blue, very very diluted, completely lots of water in it, and so that it looks as if it's barely there, but it'll still look very beautiful because we want to go for this very beautiful soft watercolor feel. And here with that same blue, I am kind of adding a different although they look like the pine leaves, but with a different shade. And this is also bringing a lot of interest to the wreath. So this step is also helping us balance out the shape of the wreath, so that it won't look too much on one side and thinner on the other side. So this step is great if you made any mistake while Maybe you felt that in some places the wreath's looking more thicker, and in some areas it's looking more thinner. So by adding a little bit of lighter diluted shade towards the background, you can create an illusion of a more symmetrical looking wreath. Alright, now lastly here I am adding with my greenish yellow. Greenish yellow is a very warm shade of green with a lot of yellow in it, and if you don't have the shade, it's fine. You can mix probably some yellow ochre to your favorite green, and you can make the shade as well. And I'm just adding some small tiny round berries, very small, some round dots to kind of just balance the whole shape of the wreath. And probably if you feel you want to add a few more darker red berries, you can also do that. So I'm going ahead and adding a few red berries and smaller in shape, and kind of just doing the same thing again, balancing the shape out. Watercolor is so therapeutic, guys. I cannot tell you how much and how relaxing it is to paint in watercolors. So, whenever I am low or I'm stressed out or just not feeling that well, I always make sure that at least I paint something in watercolor, and that way it really helps me relax. Alright guys, next up is I'm moving on to a more smaller brush, and here I'm using my number 1 round brush, and time to add a last few details, because I love my details a lot. Even though I love painting loose floral, but I like to end up with a tiny amount of details, so it really gives a almost like a realistic feel to everything, and with very less efforts, of course. So that's the amazing thing. And here I'm using a little bit of burnt sienna or Van Dyke brown. I think I'm using Van Dyke brown here. Whichever brown you have, just kind of drawing some sketching, painting some stems between those berries, kind of connecting everything to each other, and also giving it a nice finished look, because a tiny bit of detail sometimes really brings everything together and makes it look very beautiful. So here with the brown shade, I am just adding some twigs or maybe some branches. So basically I'm just painting some lines very randomly here and there, to give it a little bit more texture to the whole thing. You can absolutely take your time to do this step, guys, and I would suggest don't rush into it. Just take a step back and kind of look at the whole composition, and then decide where you want to place those tiny details. Also, don't go overboard, because that could again ruin the whole thing. So you have to just keep in mind that you just put enough number of stems and details. And here again I just had a little bit of leftover perylene green on my palette, and if you don't have perylene green, you can mix a little bit of violet to your green, or any purple shade to your green, to kind of make it a nice dark green shade, and just add in some small dots, and some shadow areas in between the leaves, and here and there some lines and some small, like very like miscellaneous details. But then those are the things, the last, it really brings the whole thing out and makes your whole painting look very alive. Alright, now we are almost at the end of our whole painting, and for the last step here I'm using my metallic gold watercolor, which is my handmade watercolor from Artlets by Artie. And with this shade I am just, because because it's Christmassy, so I just thought adding a touch of gold would really make it look very glam and very elegant. So I'm just adding some tiny round shapes of maybe some dots of the metallic gold, again very random here and there. Here you go, so that's the finished painting. I finished a Christmas wreath, and I hope you liked the video, you guys. I tried to keep it very simple for you so that anyone can paint it. Of course, the gold is again optional. If you don't have it, it's absolutely fine. You can also add acrylic paints, by the way, in case as an alternate. And of course, have fun, because that's the whole thing about watercolor and painting, is to have fun. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you guys liked it, and let me know in the comments whether you would like me to make more holiday inspired videos for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care everyone. Bye bye.